Hey, what is going on, everybody? It's Tuesday night at 10 o'clock, and you already know where you're at. You are watching Fight Club 215 with myself, Paul Spencer, and my man, Joey the Hitman Wood. What is going on, Joey? How you feeling tonight, brother?
I'm good. I'm feeling good. We had a little 2-week hiatus there. Took off a little time, switched some pages.
Mhm.
New and improved out of the box sports now. Our new
Yeah.
home going forward. So I'm feeling good. Feel good. Feels good. Got a little butterflies doing a new show on the new page, but it's good to go.
Yes, definitely, man. We took off last week because we left the other network. Here, you know what? We can grow a little bit more. We're very passionate about what we do, so we're going to try to take this to the next level. So we appreciate everybody. Not missing us last week, but we guarantee you, we promise you that we'll be back harder, stronger, and more dedicated than anyone out there talking UFC. So here we are on
Yeah,
out of the
for sure, for sure. And just
definitely
want to touch base what you were saying there. No knock on the other pages. They were more Philly predominant. We here at Out of the Box want to cover sports across the board, no cities specific, just sports in general. So that's more out of the box what we're doing here.
exactly. That's why we named it out of the box sports, man. We talk and upcoming. Well, and then later in the show, this is our network. Joey and myself, we're the co-founders of the network. So here's what we're going to do at the end of the show. We'll definitely tell you what's upcoming for the network. And guess what? We have new shows coming pretty much every week. Listen, if you're out in Las Vegas, hey, we might have you covered in Las Vegas. We don't
Hmm.
even know yet, but I'm that's just a little clue out there. But we got you covered, man. Out of the Box Sports Network has you covered everywhere, no matter what kind of fan you are. There is no fandom here. We're just true fans of all we talk about. So, Joey, let's get into this, man. Listen, there was a charity fight last week, and we all know about this guy, Floyd Mayweather. I mean,
Yeah, no, you left out the money, Floyd Money Mayweather, because that's all it seems it's all about now.
yeah, I mean, Joey, let's just talk about it first. I mean, I actually didn't watch the fight, Joey, because it was on at a weird time. It was in Dubai, and the first they canceled it, and then they went back to it again. I actually missed the fight, but I did catch up on it, Joey. I mean, did I miss anything, or like, tell me about this? What did I miss?
So just touching base upon the cancellation and stuff like that. So originally it was scheduled for 2 weekends ago, and then I guess it's considered their president
Yeah,
in
yeah,
Dubai or
mhm,
uh, the UAE. The president died, very tragic, and then so they canceled out of respect to him. Then it was scheduled for the next weekend, which was this past weekend. The promoters were saying, not enough time, let's push it back to October.
mhm.
Floyd then went on the record and said, it's either this weekend or I'm off the card.
Right.
When
Okay.
when your headlining act, Floyd Mayweather, biggest boxer since probably Ali, maybe Tyson, because Tyson was a huge draw, but biggest boxer in the last 20 years puts
Yeah.
down that ultimatum, you put the card on regardless of how much time you have to promote. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was a weird time. It's the card started 2 p.m. our time.
Mhm.
Floyd went on probably like 5:30 our time. So definitely a weird time on a Saturday afternoon on a beautiful day. Uh,
Right.
Philly had hit I think 98 degrees. So
Mhm.
yeah, definitely a weird time, but you didn't miss much with this fight overall. I mean, Floyd Floyd looked good. I mean, Floyd when he's boxing, he puts in the work. You can't deny that. He definitely puts in
Right.
the work. Definitely does his training. Definitely doesn't cut corners. Um, but he definitely looked like he fought his sparring partner. Towards the in the beginning of the fight, Floyd looked like he was toying with him a little bit, um, just kind of let him keeping him around. Then the round 6, 7, and 8 looked like Floyd really turned it on.
Mhm.
Um, Looked like he was actually going for a knockdown. I believe it was the seventh round. He actually proceeded to start taunting him, like he would hit him with a big punch and like kind of like stick out his tongue or something, like give him like a smirk, and was like taunting him a little bit. I
Mhm.
believe he knocked him down twice. One with a nice body shot.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure of what remember off the top of my head what the other punch was at the time, but I believe he knocked him down twice. But you could definitely tell in the later round Floyd was looking for the knockdown,
Right.
looking to give the fans their money because if you know about Dubai,
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia, and stuff like that, it's money over there.
Oh,
So
yeah,
you
exactly.
definitely know the fans in attendance paid a good penny to
Yeah.
be there and see Floyd. So it looked like he was trying to give them their money's worth.
Mhm.
Um, Definitely more action packed than Mayweather Logan Paul fight. So we'll have to say that.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're there to just watch Floyd fight, you got your money's worth. If you're there to see Floyd in a boxing match, eh, I mean, I mean, that's pretty much what I can say about that. It wasn't There wasn't much in the later rounds as in terms of back and forth. It was more Floyd laying it on and that guy just trying to survive.
So basically, it was just like the sparring partner, like you said back in the day. Hey, this is gonna get you prepared. Did you think more? I mean, I seen Moore's comments pre-fight, Joey, and he was saying, "Hey, listen, I don't care who this guy is. I know I train with him. He's like a friend, but this is a fight for me to show you what I can do in the ring." Did he come out and this? I don't want to say toy with because there is no toying with Mayweather. Mayweather's Mayweather. Did he come out and really try to win this fight, or he just look to survive? What did he do, Joey?
No, I think he definitely came out and tried to win, but I mean, regardless of how old he is, you're still fighting Floyd Mayweather.
Right, exactly.
Um, you were a sparring partner for a reason. I think more overall, last I checked, he was like 18-0 overall. He
Yeah,
wasn't
I
really
think
ever top of the top.
yeah. Mhm.
So, I mean, it's still a sparring partner with 18 wins total, never really hit that top echelon, versus Floyd Mayweather, the greatest of
Right,
at least my generation.
yes. Mhm.
So that's what it looked like. It looked like a real boxing match where it was a guy just a step above the other one.
Right.
Moore looked to be giving it his all, and Floyd looked like he let him hang around in the beginning rounds. It kind of looked like Floyd versus McGregor.
Mhm.
Floyd kept him hanging on in the early rounds, kept it competitive, and then kind of turned it on later on in the fight. That's what it looked like here. It looked to me like I said, Floyd, and I said it to myself a couple of times watching this fight in the later rounds, like these guys are supposed to be friends, like they're supposed to be sparring partners, and
Mhm.
just the way Floyd was like just turning it on in the sixth, seventh, and eighth round. We got to a point where Moore was holding on to him, like the ref will come in and try to stop it, and like Floyd
Right.
was literally pushing the ref off and
Mm.
like continuing the punch as the ref trying to break it up. I was like, these guys are supposed to be friends, and like the way he was acting, I was like it was a little shocking to me. I was like, don't know how much longer that friendship's gonna last, but
Yeah, it's true.
it was a little shocking to me, but it definitely looked like Moore tried, but
Mhm.
it's Floyd.
I mean, he was outmatched. I mean, anybody gets a ring with Mayweather. I don't, I mean, you could be great in your sport, WO, whatever you want to call it, whatever division you're in or classification. You get in a ring with Mayweather, it's a different story. You're, fighting a pro athlete, not on you being on the JV level. But I mean, I'm just glad that actually Mayweather, turned it on because the last fights we've seen with Mayweather in these charity fights where he makes the $100 million and hey, I walk away with $100 million no matter what. But like you said earlier, I'm glad he actually tried to put on a little bit of show according, the last couple rounds, because out there it's you're fighting in front of royalty in Dubai.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if he looked at it and says, "Hey, you know what? I'm with the kings and queens of Dubai, and maybe this is a publicity thing for me where I can get sponsored out here." But I'm just glad as a fan, that people paid that money that they actually got to see him really fight and throw some punches. And I'm glad. I mean, it's do you think it's just a spectacle, or where do you think he goes next? I mean, what does Mayweather do next? I know he's about the money, but what does he do now? Does Logan Paul get another fight? I mean,
No,
what do
I
you
mean Logan Paul's from what last I heard, they're currently in a lawsuit.
Oh, really? Wow,
He still hasn't gotten paid.
wow, I didn't even hear about that. Wow,
Yeah,
because I was
Logan Paul still hasn't gotten paid, so he's waiting for his money.
I was just reading something that Logan Paul and Silva might be going at it next or something like that.
No, so we'll get to that.
We'll
We'll get
definitely
to
get that
that.
next topic, but I
Yeah.
mean, based on a 1 to 10 scale, Joey, is this something if say let's Joey, I know looking at the fights, would you pay money to actually see this fight, Joey, or not?
The only Hey, what's up, Rob?
Hey, Rob. Hey, how's it going, brother? Welcome. That's Rob Hefner right out there from Las Vegas. He actually gave it away. Rob Hefner is actually one of our part of our sports members podcast network here. He's going to be coming on with the show in a couple weeks here. Maybe to start this week, maybe to start next week. But we will definitely keep you in tune on the West Coast out there. Definitely will. Thank you, Rob. Thanks for checking
Yeah,
in, brother.
definitely, definitely. But so you were talking about like on a scale of 1 to 10 what I pay. Floyd, I don't know how your feelings are on Floyd, but Floyd was a guy that I'd always pay to see just because he's so cocky. You pay to see maybe someone could beat him this time. Maybe.
Like that guy Conor McGregor, Joey.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I mean, that's just how it was. Floyd.
Yeah,
He says he's the best ever. I mean, it's hard to argue, but
yeah.
he's always that guy you're paying just to see be
Oh yeah,
defeated.
definitely.
So I was always under the impression like Floyd's been out of the game for a little bit. He's been doing these charity events.
Hmm.
Hasn't really fought a professional boxer in a couple years. he's a little older now, maybe lost a step. So I was paying just to see if more would
What
maybe
come
get a
out.
punch. And
Right. Right.
as you get older, your jaw starts to go, you know. So I was hoping maybe Floyd would get a punch and he get dropped, but
Yeah.
didn't
Well, let me
quite go that way.
ask you this, Joey. We're fans of all sports, basketball, football, baseball. We're fans of everything. All these athletes are coming out of retirement. Let's just, like Tom Brady, he retired, he came out, he's 40 plus 40.
Mike Tyson.
Exactly. Mike Tyson came out, I mean, even George Foreman came out of retirement before in the boxing. And but Joey, let me ask you this as a fan of Floyd Mayweather. Could he come back and fight, I want to say realistically, against a top-notch fighter in his division? How do you think he would stand up at his age now, being only fighting charity the last 2 or 3 fights? How do you think he would actually do? I know his stamina and his fight potential is insane, the way is off the charts. He will fight you and he will prepare. I know that. But how do you think he would actually be in a real WBO
Yeah.
boxing match for a title or a contender? How do you think he would do, Joey?
I would have to say he probably would be able to hold his own. I mean, he's only been out of the game for what, 3, 4 years?
Right.
Something like that. He was a step above everyone when he was in the game. So
Mhm.
even if he lost a step, maybe it's a level playing field now, but I
Okay.
still think he'd be able to hold his own. It's Floyd, you know. It's
Right.
not like it's not like it's Tyson where he's been out of the game
Yeah.
for 10, 15 years. He's been out of the game, we're talking 4, and he's still probably training and working out
Yeah.
regularly. So I would say he could probably still hold his own. Um, who knows if he'd be champion, but I would say he definitely would be able to hold his own just because it's Floyd. When you're talking greatness, look at Jordan when he came back and played with the Wizards, you know? He still averaged like 22 and 6.
Exactly. That's
It
something we gotta call. You gotta I mean, a lot of people out there don't like Brady, don't like, Jordan, and certainly whoever he does, you're kinda crazy, but, I mean, you have to respect greatness out there. When you see greatness out there, and I'm 50 years old, Joey, and I know I've known you, 3/4 of your life, and Mayweather is just, like, the biggest name out there that we have to respect that name, and we're just blessed to see greatness that we've actually seen him. But, I mean, I look at it this way, Joey, is Mayweather makes $100,000,000 for a charity fight. What's the sense of him going out there to prove something at
yeah,
50
why
and
risk
0?
it?
Why exactly what you just said, why risk that money? And, you're still gonna get $100,000,000 for going 10 rounds with a basically nobody out there, and you're gonna land punches, but you're not gonna get hit. Why not continue that? But, I mean, I would love to see him come out of retirement just to fight one sanctioned event. One, that's all I want, Joey.
You see who is coming out of retirement? Hatton.
No, I didn't even see that. Did he? Is he really?
Yeah, I think he's fighting someone else coming out of retirement coming up. But yeah, he's
Wow.
coming out of retirement, coming up to fight, which is a little shocking. But yeah, I
And
mean, like you said, even if he was to say get caught on the chin in an exhibition match, which what these are considered, doesn't
mhm.
count. So he's
So
still 50 and out.
exactly, you're the
So
greatest
so
of all
why
time.
risk it?
Exactly. I mean, you're gonna go down probably I hate a lot of people say best pound per pound fighter in the world. To me, 50 and 0 is an incredible feat. A lot of people say he ducked the, prime fighters in the end of the career, but 50 and 0 goes a long way, Joey. I mean, it is what it is. But
Yeah,
I mean, I
regardless of when he fought them, you look at
Mhm.
the who's who of who he fought.
Right.
He fought Hatton, he fought
Yeah,
Pacquiao, he fought De La Hoya, like, he fought the marquee
exactly.
names,
Yep.
the
He took
biggest
no one.
names in the sport, and he fought them and beat them. So, I
Yep, he
mean,
definitely
regardless of when he fought them, he fought them.
Mhm. A lot of people say that Pacquiao fight, when Pacquiao, I think it was his shoulder that he
Yeah,
blew
his
out.
shoulder was blew out
Yeah,
before the
he
fight.
did, but I mean, I don't wanna say it is what it is, but, like, who knows? We wish we coulda seen, Pacquiao with 100% with that, shoulder injury. I mean, I'm a Pacquiao love. I love the guy, for his what he does for the sport. I mean, he's a true warrior, he doesn't matter. He won't duck anybody. He'll do what he has to do, but speaking of Mayweather, there was another fight on that card, wasn't there, Joey?
There was Anderson Silva, UFC legend,
Mhm.
up there, considered one of the goats of the sport.
Yes.
Boxing, I believe this was his 3rd boxing match.
Yeah, mhm.
He always talked about his love for boxing when he was in the UFC. Again, it's an exhibition, so there's no actual winners. But Silva knocked him down once. Looked like he controlled most of the fight from what I was seeing. All
Mhm.
the scores I would read in from like some MMA sites and some boxing sites had Silva winning almost every round.
Yeah.
knocked him down. It was just Silva, even at his 40 plus age,
He's
still looked
47 years
yeah,
old, 47, and he moves like that. I mean, I watched the late up the fight because I was doing something that Saturday, because like I said, it was kind of a weird time for me.
yeah,
But man, when I watched the outcome of that fight, Silva, when he had Machado on the ropes, I mean, he was giving him some combos. I think it was like a 10-punch combo. I'm 50 years old, man. I struggle going outside cutting my grass. And this dude's leaning this dude up, not bodying him with them. I mean, legally punching this dude in the ribs like 10 straight times,
yeah.
full capacity. I'm like, God, this guy's real, you know? Man.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to also look at the level of competition. I
Yeah.
believe the guy that he fought never had a was 0-0,
Yeah.
hasn't had an actual professional fight yet, but he's still, like you said, Silva's 47.
Mhm.
Um, he's not a professional boxer. I mean, he's a professional MMA fighter, but
Right.
MMA and boxing is not the same thing. And
No, no.
guy was much younger than him. Uh, so trains boxing, not an MMA fighter. So it was still a hard fight, and Silva came out there and really impressed,
Yeah.
especially at 47. Like that, you can't overlook that. 47 is just
That's oh,
it's just wow. Like
mm,
Tyson, over 50, still, but he's fighting older guys. He's not fighting a
right.
young up and coming boxer, regardless of the uh why am I getting tongue tied here? I apologize. But
Alright.
regardless of what his record is,
Right.
um, Tyson fought older retired boxers also.
Yeah.
Silva is fighting young,
The opposite of
hungry,
right. Mhm,
looking to build their name
mhm.
boxers. So I just thought that was very impressive. And then the chatter afterwards, I'm not sure if you heard this, but Jake Paul, they kept saying Silva might be Jake Paul's next opponent,
That's who I was
which
talking about when I said that rumor coming up. That's who I was yeah,
yeah,
that's what I was thinking, yeah. Mhm.
which would be interesting because it still fits into Jake Paul's wheelhouse of
Right.
not fighting straight boxers, fighting these MMA guys.
Mhm.
Mind you, Silva is a lot better of a boxer than Ben
Yeah,
Askren or Tyron Woodley, but like we said, Silva is 47.
exactly.
When Jake Paul is giving it back, probably going to give it back to him better than the opponent this weekend.
Right.
Um, how's Silva going to hold up? That's going to be the biggest thing. 47 years old against a young, hungry, up and coming boxer. It'll be interesting to see. And don't get me wrong, I can't stand Jake Paul, so I hope Silva
Either.
can drop him just because I think he's bad for the sport. Makes
Yes.
every person who has a YouTube channel think they can become a boxer, and I think it just makes the sport look like a clown.
Joey,
It
yeah,
just
YouTube, I mean, we're on YouTube. We might, at 50 years old, I might come out of here and just say, "You know what, Joey? I'm going to the UFC, WO Boxing. I'm doing a charity event. I want Mayweather next. I can handle him at 50." But hell no, it takes a certain kind of athlete out there, Joe, and we know that. We
no,
respect
and don't
them.
get me wrong, he's definitely good athlete, but I think like the way he's blowing up when you have the other
Yeah.
boxers have been doing it their whole life and they don't get the half the recognition that he does. I think it just makes this it kind of clowns the sport a little bit. They got these young kids saying that Jake Paul's their favorite boxer. It
Mhm.
just it just really like I think puts a
Right.
black eye on the sport. Like sure it brings more views to the sport, but I think at the same time it kind of taints the sport a little bit.
It does. I mean, if just like you said, a lot of these young kids, that's not blessed to see what we talk about, like the Mayweather, the Canelos, the Pacquiaos, the Tysons back in the day. When I hear someone say like, "Oh, who's your favorite fighter?" "Oh, Logan Paul." To me, I just want them to say like, "Who's your favorite YouTuber?" "Oh, Logan Paul." He's not a boxer to me. He hasn't earned the name recognition, just like we talk about with the UFC, which we'll get into. How a fighter can come out of 2 years of retirement or being, not valid for 2 years and overstep everyone that's put in the work, the top 5 fighters. How can a number 10 fighter, which we know we're talking about Joey McConnor, we'll get into something like that, but how they can jump up and just with the name recognition, it does put a black eye on the sport a little bit. To me, it does, but it's all about the name draw, which we've been talking about pretty much for every episode we had. It's the name draw, who makes you the money. It's the money fight, and people want to see something like that. But Joey, let me ask you this: what if Mayweather and Silva went at it? Silva has that stamina, and he's not a joke. He wants to come out and put on a show. Do you think Mayweather would ever accept a fight like that, knowing that this dude will come out and try to hit you? Do you think
Well,
that would happen?
it's funny because I think I sent it to you on Friday or Thursday.
Mhm.
Um, the promoters of the fight accidentally tweeted like a hiccup, and it said watch Mayweather battle Silva, and I'm like, I said to you this, I was like, is there a change in the card now? Like, I don't think
Mhm.
that would ever happen just because Silva now I think is like 190
Yeah, that's a
Mayweather. So there'd be a huge weight cut, but I mean Logan Paul and Mayweather was a huge weight difference, and that still happened. But
right.
Silva is a whole hell of a lot better boxer
I mean, I don't know if
than
Mayweather
Paul, so I don't think Mayweather would do
I don't
that.
think Mayweather would take that fight. I mean, I know it's $100 million, but it might cost you $1 million to get that face fixed, but hey, I still think he would take that fight because number 1, it might put a blemish on his record, even though it's an audition fight, charity fight, whatever you wanna call it. I don't think he would be dumb enough to take that fight knowing that this guy is gonna try to come out and kill you.
You know,
Silva's
I
a
agree.
of the guys, but yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I don't think he fights anyone like Logan Paul was a lot bigger than him, but he
Yeah,
fought him because Logan Paul's a YouTuber, he's not a boxer. Anyone
right.
that has a legitimate shot of throwing hands, that's bigger than him, I don't think he takes that risk.
You don't think he
And it's a
does?
stupid risk to take. I mean, Mayweather's made millions and millions, close to billions.
Mhm.
Why risk that at this stage of your career?
Exactly. I mean, and truth be told, if I'm making make 100 like we said earlier, if I'm making $100 million for a charity event, and I know they just like they did this guy Logan, with Paul and more, it's my sparring partner. Why risk anything to I can put on a show and beat these guys. I can dance, I can, do whatever I want, toy with you, whatever you want to call it. Why get into a ring with somebody, that's actually gonna try to fight and use my name saying, "I beat Mayweather."
Yeah.
I'm ready to go to the next level. And Mayweather becomes like a stepping stone. I can't see that happening, but he's not dumb. He ain't gonna do it, Joe. We know that. But I would love to see something like that. I mean, who in your opinion, who do you want Mayweather to fight next? Even though it's a charity event, Joey, where do you want him to go next?
I don't even know. I
You know
mean,
he's
thinking
gonna do it.
about who's out there,
You know he's
um, you definitely know he's gonna have another one.
Mhm.
It's probably something out of left field we're never gonna think of.
That's what I'm thinking, man.
But who knows? I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, I know there was a while there where what's the name was trying to get like his boxing license back. De La Hoya. Why not De La Hoya Mayweather? That would
Ooh,
sell some
but
draws.
De La Hoya, he's the type guy like the golden boy. If he ever signed that fight, he's gonna come out with a vengeance, man, and he's gonna go back, all out, balls to the wall, and try to kill Mayweather. Mayweather, I don't even think he would ever take that fight because he's like, this guy was a boxer. I know he's the same age, a little bit older than I am, but he's been in the ring. He knows me. I fought him before. There's a vengeance. What if this guy actually clicks me a couple times? Is my
Yeah.
glass all gonna stick up? Is my stone, whatever, my face gonna be okay? I don't know. I mean, who knows with Mayweather, man? Whatever the money's out there, he'll fight. Whenever he runs out of his $18 billion, he'll come out, and say, I want another million, $100 million fight. But I don't know.
It must be nice, you know.
Yeah, I know, Joey. Man, tell me about it. Must be nice, man. $100 million just for a charity fight. All you gotta do is dance around and say I'm Mayweather. Wow.
You have to spend 3 weeks in the beautiful
Oh, yeah, Dubai. Oh,
Yeah, Dubai, and
yeah. Oh, now where did they fight at? I know they were supposed to fight on the top of a helicopter pad. Was it inside the arena there at
so
the,
they put it in arena because there was reports that there was supposed to be a major sandstorm that was
oh,
gonna throw off the helicopter pad. I wish I would have been there. It would have been cool to see, but
right.
because of the weather conditions, they didn't have it there.
Yeah, I agree, Rob. We just talked about Mayweather will not put himself in a situation where he'll lose. I 100% agree with that. And like we said with the money issue, he won't take a fight where he has a potential to get, I'm going to say that pretty little boy face damage. I mean, he's a smart guy. Why not? I wouldn't do it either.
But hasn't that been the case the whole career? I mean, we were talking about that earlier, how it always seemed like he fought that marquee name maybe a year or two too late.
Yeah.
De La
Yeah.
Hoya, Pacquiao, they all just it just seemed like it came maybe a year or two, maybe
Hmm.
3 years after their prime, or maybe before their prime. In the terms of Canelo, he
Right.
fought Canelo when he was just a little too raw still, you know. So it just
Well,
seems like that's been the
not to interrupt you, but did that put a blemish on his record? I know we talk baseball with the steroids issue, the Bonds, McGuire, Sosa thing. Does that put a blemish on Mayweather's record? We're not I don't wanna he was never involved with drugs or anything like that, or, HGH, whatever you wanna call it. But does that what you just said put a little asterisk on his name where he fought De La Hoya a little bit late? He fought Pacquiao a little bit late. Does that put a blemish on his record where he, after going 40-0, that last 10 fights, Joey, those fights maybe were a little bit prolonged after the opponent's career. What do you think? Does that put a blemish on him or not?
I mean, in the grand scheme of it, when you look at people are gonna look at the people are gonna look at the who's who and he fought and not worry about when.
Right.
But then you always have those naysayers like, well, he fought them. You're always gonna have those people. I mean,
Sure.
it's not like you said, it's not like an asterisk, like steroids.
Right.
This would be opinion based more than anything. But there's
Exactly.
always those naysayers out there that will bring that up constantly.
Right.
Um,
I
my
agree.
dad being one of them, who always just like, well, he fought De La Hoya a couple years too late, and he dragged out the Pacquiao negotiations until Pacquiao was a little past his prime. So there's always those naysayers, and you're going to see that in terms of like the asterisk next to their record. I think it's more of an opinion asterisk than an
Yeah.
actual
I
like
agree with that.
this guy popped for steroids asterisk because obviously that is definitely more of a performance enhancer
Yeah,
than
I agree.
anything. But I think definitely opinion based, people are always going to hold that against him. I don't think
I
you
agree.
can put an asterisk because he didn't do anything illegal.
Okay. I agree with that. I mean, people just like you said, the naysayers are gonna always say something no matter what. They're always opinionated, everybody's entitled to their opinion. But I mean, I look at it 50-0 is an incredible feat no matter who you fight. I don't care if you're fighting some guy off the street and you beat him. Hey, that's still a record that you won. All we look is the win and loss column, no matter where you fight. But speaking of boxing again, since let's talk about another person that might be talking about going into boxing here, Joey. Holly Holmes. Let's talk about her. You brought it up to me earlier today when I was doing something. You sent me the little twit thing, the winner there. What is she going? Is she gonna fight? Is she gonna fight or not? What is she doing, Joey?
So I mean, now we're talking years ago, 2005, 2006. Holmes, before she came to the UFC, was a very decorated
Right.
boxer, very decorated. I mean, she was back to back
Mhm.
Ring Magazine in 2005,
What yes,
2006.
yeah, it's back to back, yeah. Mhm.
Back to back Women's Fighter of the Year for Ring Magazine, which was a very prestigious
Yeah,
award. Mayweather has won that many times. Very prestigious award in the world of boxing. She was a decorated boxer, and then she kind of hit the peak of where the ceiling where you can go with women boxing. Women boxing has come a long way, but back in the early 2000s to the 2010s era, there wasn't much room in the world of women boxing. If you weren't Layla
right.
Ali, you weren't really making anything. So
Yeah,
she
sure.
switched over to UFC. Um, Want to have a great career, knocked out Ronda Rousey, who considered by most as the women's MMA GOAT.
Yeah, agree.
But now I mean, she has had a 2-year layoff, horrible injuries.
Mhm.
Came back this weekend, very controversial decision,
Yeah, definitely.
loss. Um, Everyone I've seen said she won. Don't understand how she lost that fight.
Well, what do you
But
feel about that fight, Joey, real quick? What do you feel about that fight there? I mean, I watched it and I think she actually I think she got jerked on that one. I really do.
so I think it was a double edged sword here because I think she definitely lost a lot of the exchanges in just the stand up itself.
Mhm.
But then again, home it's MMA, it's not boxing. Home
Right.
controlled the position against the cage most of the fight. I think like 80% of the fight Holmes was controlling against the cage.
Mhm.
Holmes was landing shots and she was dictating the position of where the fight went. And
Right.
I just feel like that wasn't looked at all in the judges' scorecard. I mean, DC, he's gone on YouTube, Twitter, like he's made videos and everything, like
Yeah.
just saying how he doesn't understand that outcome. He felt that Home was robbed, and I can definitely see where he's saying it from. I can see both sides, but I
Mhm.
do think as a judge, it's not all about just the strikes. It's MMA. It's not boxing. You have to
Exactly,
judge
yeah.
it based upon everything. So I do think Home got robbed, but then news came out. I mean, there was rumblings. Uh, her promote. Well, I didn't even mention who it was, but Taylor's promoter, uh, Katie Taylor's promoter, has been like hinting at it the whole time.
Mm.
That Home was a name that might be intriguing, and then this morning there was news broke that talks broke down between Katie Taylor and the rematch from Madison Square Garden.
Vieira, right?
Correct. So talks broke down, and now Holmes kind of jumped in front of the line to be Katie Taylor's next potential opponent. These are just rumors, nothing's signed, nothing's agreed upon, but rumored that Katie Taylor, Holly Holmes, Croke Park in Dublin, Ireland, which holds 82,000
Right.
people, could main event a pay per view, which would be huge because Taylor's Ireland. I mean, the Irish support their own like no other.
Sure.
I definitely think pulling Holmes in there above some of maybe the other deserving women boxers is definitely a little to do, like you said, the name draw, the money.
Right.
It's still a business.
Mhm.
Home would bring UFC fans,
Oh, yes, definitely. I
not
mean,
just boxing fans. Whereas if Taylor fought just the next one in line, the boxing, you might not get those UFC fans turning in. If you
ex
now have Holly Holm versus Katie Taylor, uh, you get those UFC fans, you get those extra buys, you get those extra tickets purchased,
mhm.
and that would open up a whole new genre of audience that
Oh, yeah,
they
definitely.
wouldn't have got before. The only downfall here is, I mean, I was seeing it a lot on Twitter, and I was getting into it with some people on Twitter about this. Um, Granted, Holm hasn't fought in boxing in a while.
Yeah.
Um, People were saying, "Oh, well, she lost a stand-up battle even this weekend alone." I said,
Yeah, but
"This weekend with
she has to acknowledge the fact that she might be taken down, so your stand-up game is not gonna be what it is in boxing. I mean, you still have to
exactly."
you have to look at that. You know, Joey, me and you are going at it, and I know you're a ground and pound guy, and I might be a stand-up guy, but if I know I can beat you in a stand-up game, what I gotta do is take acknowledgement that you're gonna try to take me down, which exactly what happened in that fight. So your mindset is totally different between a boxer and a UFC fighter. So that I don't even wanna hear all that stuff, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And
exactly.
another thing about boxing you don't have to worry about, and about MMA you don't have to worry about in boxing is
Right.
get kicked in the face. Like you don't have to worry about that
Yeah,
in boxing, you know. And granted, Katie Taylor is the pound for pound number one. You know,
exactly.
um,
Hey, what's
we
going on,
got
Joe?
Joe checking in. What's up,
Check
Joe?
him out, Sully Squad on, Devereaux Sports. He's a great guy. He'll be collaborating with us, from time to time. You can check him out every Monday night at 6:30. What's going on, Joe? I appreciate you tuning in, brother. Thank you.
Yeah,
Right.
so getting back to Taylor, I mean, she's definitely a pound for pound boxer number one. It'll definitely be a huge upfield climb for Home. Not saying she's gonna win by any means, but I
Mhm.
definitely think we got to give her a little more credit than what people are giving her credit for in this match. I think Taylor wins relatively easy. I still think it's going to be a good fight,
Yeah,
just because of Home's pedigree and the history of her. I mean, I know sports evolved a lot in the past 15 years, but
yeah.
Holly Holm was still a decorated fighter. It doesn't just go away.
I mean, that goes a long way, just like you said, ringmaster, back-to-back champion. I mean, that goes a long way, you know? I mean, it's in her blood to be a stand-up boxer. We've seen that in her past fights. We know that. But is this gonna be a title fight, Joey, or is it just going to be a name draw? Has that been I know it's a rumor, but this is definitely gonna be a title fight, correct?
I don't know. I didn't see that far into it. They didn't really discuss that portion. Um, I don't know if they would be able to make it a title fight. Those don't they have like those mandatory number one
That's
contenders and stuff?
that's what I'm thinking. I mean, I because boxing,
It's just hard sometimes with boxing.
there's a lot of the rematch clauses out there, Joey, like that. Only way I could see it, just like you said in the beginning, if Vieira backs out of it, she might have that guaranteed, rematch clause in her contract. But if for some unspecified reason that she can't do it, maybe it is what it is. Next fighter steps up, or if they already have a name draw. I don't know. I don't honestly don't think she could fight for the title right now. I don't think she could, but
But I don't think you need to. I don't think you need to attach the title to that fight for it to sell.
I don't think so. Just like you said with Dana White, he's probably licking his tongue right now, saying, "My God, all these people, UFC versus WBO." Just like you said with the name draw alone, UFC fight fans are going to be traveling to Ireland, going crazy over there. It's going to be half UFC, half WBO boxing. It's going to be insane.
And
It's
it's funny you mentioned like Ireland UFC fans. So I'm a huge McGregor fan. So
you know,
I went out to Vegas when McGregor fought Aldo.
mhm,
Um, I was out there for that, and I was at the weigh-ins and stuff like that. So before every weigh-in, they have like a Q&A with one of the fighters. Just so
mhm,
happened that the Q&A for that was Holly Holm. And before, like right when she came out and stuff, she was like, I just want everyone to know, like, my family is very Irish, like we're a big Irish family and
right.
all this other stuff. And like all the like it was predominantly all people from Ireland at this weigh-in. And they were loving Holly, like they were loving her, like they're saying like Ireland loves her and stuff. So that's another factor you have to weigh in. I mean, Taylor's not she's not gonna have more fandom than Taylor in her home country, 82,000 seat stadium, but I definitely think home would have some fans there. So
I
it'll
think
definitely be interesting to see. Um, Definitely want to see how far, um, if Holmes lost a step or Another thing is that Holmes, when she boxed, was much heavier. I mean, she's
Yeah,
cut a lot of weight in the UFC to get down
yeah.
to this point. So we'll see how that translates. Also, it'll be interesting. You always say UFC versus boxing. This is not really quite that, just because Holmes was a boxer who came to the UFC.
Mhm.
But I definitely think it would be interesting. That's something I would purchase.
Yeah, I mean, I wanna see it. I mean, it's both the best worlds. I mean, we just seen, Holly Holmes, we know what she can do, and if she gets that title shot or any kind of shot at it, hey, you wanna venture to a boxing career, hey, why not? But the only thing is that age. We know Silva can do it. I mean, look at Silva, he's doing what he has to do, and he's respecting in the game now. If Holly can do it, hey, you know what? More power to you, man. More props to you. But speaking of that, Joey, there is a huge, huge fight we're talking about, Joey. Man, I am waiting for this. I've been waiting for this a long time. These are two of my favorite fighters, Joey, ever, all time. I'll let you get into this first, Joey, because you were the one that sent me the tweet about this, Joey.
Yeah, I mean, finally, we were debating about this 2 weeks ago when we
Uh,
were talking about it after the Bivol fight. Would he do Bivol rematch first and then go on the Triple Gs? What would he do? And then it was reported yesterday, September 17th, made official today.
right.
Triple Gs versus Canelo, round three.
Mhm.
Um, and then he said he'll touch back on the Bivol fight after this one, which makes sense to me on a couple aspects. One, I think after being handled that soundly against Bivol,
Yeah.
be a bad look for Canelo's just overall
Mhm.
legacy if he would lose back-to-back fights to Bivol. So I
Yeah.
think that's why he didn't take that Bivol fight. Also, I think the Bivol Canelo fight would definitely draw more than the first one, just to see if Canelo can avenge his loss, but I
Mhm.
don't think it draws close to Canelo Triple
No,
G's.
I don't either. No.
And then the third thing I would say is if Canelo Bivol would take place in, say, September when this fight was supposed to happen,
Mhm.
Triple G's Canelo probably wouldn't take place until maybe February, March.
Right.
Triple G's is already 40. Canelo
Right.
people then will then come at Canelo and be like, "Oh, well, you're fighting a over the hill Triple G's." If we're talking a year from now, that fight happens.
Exactly.
So I
Right.
think that's another reason why this happened first.
Mhm.
But also money. Like I said, money runs everything, and this fight is going to sell more than any other fight that
Yeah,
Canelo could have took.
I agree.
Just from the name standpoint, the history standpoint,
Mhm.
everyone's saying Canelo lost that first one.
Right.
It was gifted to him. So it's just a great finally settled debate. If you have it at home scorecard 1-1, this is a great final final
Yeah.
test to see who once and for all
Yeah.
is the better fighter.
Mhm.
If you don't agree with that, this is just a great fight overall for you, but just a great boxing match overall. Like I
Yeah.
said, this feels like the old time boxing. Like growing up as a kid, I always felt like there was always a huge pay-per-view boxing match. I don't think you've
Mhm.
had that recently anymore. Like there's a
Yeah.
boxing match where you have to buy. You don't have that anymore, and this seems like that.
Exactly. I agree with 100% what you just said. I mean, this is like old school where, every month to me, if this is me as a fan, Joey, every month, okay, I want a boxing match where it's the top two, in the category. To me, that's what I want. Just like with the UFC, I would like to see the top, every week I can't say every week, at least some name draw fight, not just the names. I want the best fight possible, and that's just me. Like Joey, I know you're a big wrestling fan, which we will be having a wrestling show. We'll get into that too, Joey. But even as a wrestler back in the day, where I think it was Friday night, they used to have really late at night. I think it was where they had every week they had something, a prize fight. The top two guys for a title fight, and that's to me what I want to see. I want to take it back to old school where every UFC card you see something that you want to see,
Yeah.
not just like you said, "Oh man, UFC's coming on." Well, that last month's fight was insane. I loved it. Oh, well, this card, I'm a UFC fan. I got to buy it. I want to be that guy where it's like, you know what, put down everything I'm doing, and hey family, I'm sorry, I got to watch this fight tonight.
Or
Which one?
invite your friends over, because that was big back then too. Like you
Yeah,
had friends over, you all put money up, you watched the fights
mhm,
together, you ordered some food, had some beers. You just
exactly.
don't have that fight anymore. And I think a lot of it has to do with um, the promoters now are
Yeah,
just so inclined with just it's all about the money. It's all about the money that they don't let their marquee fighters fight the best of the best because One, maybe he has a different promoter and they can't come to agreement on the promoter's standpoint, or they don't want to risk putting that one on their fighter's record, so you don't ever see the best of the best fight, and that unfortunately has caused the world of boxing to kind of go down, in my personal opinion,
I
going
agree.
downhill because you don't get the best of the best anymore.
Exactly.
You only get the best of the best of who the promoter allows them to fight. And
Exactly.
sometimes you get some good matches just because this trash can put up a good fight against this prize
Mhm.
fighter, but you don't get those marquee matchups anymore. It's just so unfortunate.
It is. I mean, it's sad to say as there's both the worlds out there. There's the fight fan that just loves the sport and will watch anything that happens, and there's that fight fan that's been around the way and says, "I deserve the better fight. I deserve this. I wanna see this. I wanna give this guy a shot. He deserves it." But, just like Rob's saying right here, boxing and UFC have certainly changed. Yeah, it's more of a money draw now. It's all about the money and what's best for I wanna say, the brand itself is that's what it's come to, Joey.
Yep.
It's whatever the brand can make the most money off of. We won't get into the Connor thing, just like the Connor thing, if he comes back, that's gonna be probably the biggest draw in UFC in the last 10 years is his return after that injury that he had. But, speaking of that, Joey, I mean, this when we know this fight's happening, just like you said with Canelo, okay, he's not gonna fight Bivol because that weight thing. He's not gonna go down and have back-to-back losses. That's just an asterisk on his career. It's not gonna happen. Going back down to Triple G, how do you think this is gonna end up? After we know Canelo was outmatched versus Bivol. We know that. That size advantage was insane, Joey. He couldn't do anything. I mean, Bivol was just putting him anywhere he wanted to. He was toying with him. How do you think, Canelo rebounds against Triple G?
So here's the biggest thing I think, and it's going to be the biggest factor. Triple G's is now 40 years old.
Yes.
He's been in some wars. He's a hell of a boxer, great champion. I just think age catches up to everyone. No one has outrun Father Time.
Mhm.
And when you're fighting someone who is as powerful as Canelo, coming off a loss,
Yeah.
I definitely think um, Canelo gets to win. I
Mhm.
don't know if Canelo knocks him down because if I'm not mistaken, I don't believe Triple G has ever been knocked down.
I don't think he ever has. I mean, I know the one loss was to him, back in what was it, like 18, I think he had that one loss and then the draw versus, Canelo as well.
Yeah, which was everyone was kind of pissed off
Exactly.
about because they were saying that Canelo lost, but
Mhm.
it's just gonna be a very intriguing fight just because Canelo's coming off that loss. We haven't seen that happen since Mayweather.
Mhm.
How does that affect him mentally? Is that going to make him go into a shell or come out more too aggressive than what he should be? So it'll be just definitely be interesting to see. Um,
Hey, Joe, I
just
got a little blast at you real quick from our guy, Rob Hefner.
well, I mean, it's good whiskey, so he can do both. He can
Hey, he
sell
agrees with
pay per
Rob
views
on
and
stuff. He agrees with you. Hey, look, that's why he's on Out of the Box podcast.
yeah.
He knows this stuff. He keeps it real, man.
But here's the thing, Rob McGregor's been out almost a year now. He'll be
Mhm.
here this summer. When he comes back, he'll still have a top five pay per view draw. That's just what
Oh,
he
yeah.
does.
Mhm.
But getting back to this fight, it's definitely going to be a huge draw. And I was reading something. I don't know if this is true. I'll have to look into more into it. Talk about it next week, possibly. This isn't actually a pay per view. If you have Dizon, the
Really?
app, you pay monthly for it. It's included in your Dizon subscription,
Oh,
which is like
wow.
$15 a month.
Which is
Because
actually good for a lot of fight fans out there to get that, that's incredible. That's a good draw.
yeah. So I have to look into that just because I don't see how that's possible to fight this caliber. It's just part of your built-in subscription. I
Well,
mean, every Canelo fight.
speaking of Triple G, I was just looking up real quick. His last fights, I mean, Murata, he knocked out. That was a TKO in 2022, April this year. He had a corner stoppage, where I'm gonna butcher his name, Zamurte, and his last fights were his last 2 of his last, I wanna say 2 of his last 5 fights, going back to the Canelo fight, 2 of them were knockouts, 2 were decisions, and 1 was a corner stoppage. Do you think that age is getting up there, Joey? Is that you maybe that think that's what it is too?
Like I said, no one has ever beat Father Time. Knock on wood, Tom Brady, but
Mhm,
no one has beaten Father Time. So we'll see how that plays out.
mhm.
Uh, it'll be interesting, that the age factor, Canelo coming off a loss factor.
Right.
How does he rebound? Like I said, because it's been a while since that's happened. Young fighters, you say that of getting that first loss out of the way is best for them. It kind of shows them where they have to grow for this.
Right.
Um, but what does this do to Canelo, who's considered one of the pound for pound greats
Right.
currently? What does this do for him? So it'll be interesting just to see. And then Triple G is always just a great fight to watch. You know, he always puts on a show. He's a warrior with a rock
Yeah.
for a chin. So it'll be a great fight. And then, like I said, if that's not a pay per view, that will get, I don't even know, maybe over a million views if it's not pay per view and it's just $15.
Just as a fight fan, I mean, I think this is the trilogy is what we've been waiting on. This is gonna be huge, and I don't understand why they can't put it on pay-per-view. I mean, if I'm the I don't know. It's insane, Joey, if it's on Dazn, though. I can't see that
So it
happening.
said dies. So on the paper, so here that threw me off on um the poster for the pay per view. It says dies on pay per view. So
Okay.
typically, if it just dies on, there's not that pay per view portion. But then I was reading reports that it's not pay per view; it's part of your dies on subscription. So if
Okay.
that's the case, that's a huge win for fight fans, because
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's only like 15 or $20
Yeah.
a month.
It's a lot.
Whereas, I mean, you can just do that for one night and then cancel your subscription after that.
Yeah.
Compared to $70 pay per view, it's a huge, huge
Agree.
win.
Agree.
So we'll
Mhm.
see. It definitely be great. And then a lot of places can probably show at that point, because they don't have to worry about paying the pay per view rate for their bars or restaurants. So they might get more views like that.
Yeah,
It'll
exactly,
definitely
right.
be interesting fight. We'll definitely be covering it more leading up to it once we find out for sure. There's rumbles that it's going to be in Vegas, but
Mhm.
um
I mean,
uh
what was it? The last ones were at the T-Mobile Arena. Both of his fights have been the T-Mobile Arena, weren't they? Out
yeah,
there?
but I mean, he's had some fights at Jerry World too, but this will be in
Yeah.
September. I'm not sure if Dallas is home that weekend or not, the 17th, but that they would probably sell that place out too, so it could be anywhere, honestly.
And just imagine, I mean, I've been down there quite a few times. You're looking at 100,000 plus, Joey, for this fight. You
Yeah.
know, this is the funny thing. It's this, we thought about, like, as you spoke right there, Jerry's World. Could you imagine the ticket sales down there in Jerry's World for this fight? My God, 100,000 plus, for this fight, the
Yeah, he's
trilogy.
done. I forget which one he did it for before, but he had a fight recently there, I believe. Maybe last Cinco de Mayo,
Was it?
at Dallas Stadium. So
I
it'll
can't
be
remember.
interesting, but
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait for this fight, Joey. And the trilogy to me, this is, I mean, to me, okay, the Canelo fight with Bivol, I don't want to give him an asterisk because he was outmatched. He was up and lower in weight with that Bivol fight. He took it. He took it on the chin with that one. He lost it. But this fight to me is going to be a defining moment in his career versus Triple G. The trilogy
yeah.
here, this is the rubber match, 1-1. This is the rubber match right here. People are going to be talking about this. Could be Canelo's last fight, win or lose, and they're going to talk about this last fight. Two versus one, one versus two. Whoever steps up with this fight probably will be going down. Right behind Mayweather, most likely. To me, I mean these two right here are top five in my book, and any time in watching boxing in their career. To me, this is just something I've been waiting on. We talked about this 2 weeks ago. Will it happen?
Yeah,
And
and
we got it. We got it. It's
it's
happening.
it's definitely interesting. And then just you speaking of the Bivol fight and how it's like you can't really fault that against him and stuff.
Right.
Definitely agree. Could definitely take some balls to
Yeah.
unify a whole weight class and then say, okay, I'm done here, and then go up to the next weight class
Right.
and try to do the same things. Definitely take some balls and definitely can't fault him for that. Obviously, it's still a loss on the record, but definitely take some balls. And
It
not
does.
something that we talked about, but it's something that I read recently and I forgot to bring it to your attention.
Mhm.
But remember previously we were talking Fury, Tyson
Yeah.
Fury, and what's next for him and stuff. I just read a report that Joshua will be fighting, getting his rematch against, I forget how to pronounce his name. You, the one begins with a U, the
Yeah.
Ukrainian.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Okay.
I don't know how to pronounce his name, but
It's a rumor, or are they going to sanction it?
so they're fighting. They're gonna be fighting coming up. I'm not sure exactly the date, but they'll be
Oh,
fighting.
right.
Joshua getting his rematch.
Okay.
Fury's come out and said that the Ukrainian doesn't really excite him. So if he beats Joshua again,
Oh,
he's retired.
right.
But if Joshua wins, that'll be enough for him to take one more bout, and it'll be Fury versus Joshua. I mean,
Wow.
talk
Okay.
about big time heavyweight fights.
Yeah.
That would be huge. And then another heavyweight fight that I've seen that might be on the horizon, which not quite Joshua Fury, but still a pretty good fight. Um, Ruiz, the one who upset Joshua,
Yeah.
versus Wilder. That would be
Really?
a good fight too.
How do you feel about Wilder? I mean, I don't know. I've seen the best of both worlds with Wilder, Deontay. I've seen the best of him, but how do you think does he fit into this whole Fury heavyweight thing again? I mean, is he there? I don't know, Joey.
I think he always has to be there just because of the power he has in his
Yeah,
hands.
puncher's chance, one punch and you knock out. I mean, anything can happen with the heavyweights, like we said, even in the UFC, everybody has a puncher's chance, but
And
to
you got to
me
give him credit. These Fury fights, I think, pushed him to be a better boxer.
yeah.
That last Fury fight, I think it was the best I've seen him box.
Mhm.
um, in all of his career. I mean, you talk about Wilder, a guy who didn't pick up the sport of boxing until 20 years old, where
Right.
most of these pro boxers were doing it since they were 7, 8 years old.
Yeah.
That's where I think he lacks a little bit in the pure overall boxing skill, just because just so little he's actually done it compared to everyone else.
Mhm.
But when you hold that kind of power in your hands,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter what kind of skill you have when all it takes is one punch. I mean, we saw with that Fury fight, the first one.
Mhm.
He was outclassed the entire fight. He hit him with that one punch, and I thought it was over. So I
Yeah.
think Wilder will always fit in regardless of who's champion, just because it's excitement. He brings that excitement of all it takes is one punch from Wilder,
Yeah.
and
I agree with
people
that.
like to people like to see knockouts. People pay to see knockouts.
I agree with that 100%. I mean, especially being in a heavyweight division, you could be against the ropes and you swing for a Hail Mary shot or an uppercut, just letting it loose, and that one punch connects, man. That's all it takes. It could be a 15-round fight, and that last punch devastates him. You need 30 seconds to knock the guy out. It can happen in a moment, in a second instance. So, I mean, you're right about that. I mean, Wilder, he's been through it, just like you said with his last fight. It brought out the boxer in him. He's going to be ready for him if this does happen. I'm looking for the future. And I actually hope Fury comes back and gets this fight, with that one there. I'm looking forward to 2 massive heavyweights. I'd love to see it, Joey. I really would. I mean, hopefully we
Two
get a fight fans.
two huge fighters in the UK, and
Yeah,
it would be a huge draw wherever they ended up having that fight. Definitely will be somewhere in the UK.
definitely.
Definitely would sell out wherever they are. It would definitely be a huge draw. Um, and I just think we need that fight. For a while, it was always a fight that was talked about that never actually came to fruition. And then
Mhm.
every time was close to coming to it, something would happen. Either Joshua would lose, or
Yeah,
Fury just went off the deep end there for a little while. But I just think it would be great for Fury's, I think, overall legacy if he was able to knock off Joshua.
right.
Because you think for the last 6, 7, 8 years, it's been the three. It's been Fury. It's been Joshua. It's been Wilder. If
Exactly.
Tyson Fury can say he holds victories over Wilder and Joshua, I mean that's kind of cements your legacy right there.
Yeah, that does right there. If you can beat off, just like, we talk about Canelo, this fight right here is the rubber match, basically. It's gonna go down in history.
Yeah, I mean it's not really, but yeah,
Who I mean, in a way, it's gonna who has
yeah,
that
no,
chance.
I know what you mean.
Fight, the rematch, this clause here, who has the rematch? Who won that 3rd fight? A lot of people look at that in this way. If Fury does win both these fights and it does happen, he cemented his legacy just like this and say, "Hey, you know what? I beat Wilder. I beat, Joshua. I beat all these guys. Look at me." I don't
Klitschko.
exactly. I don't need to say who wants a rematch. I've already done what I had to do.
Yeah.
I mean, the Gypsy King is, he's up there with like the Tom Brady in football. He's up there. He's already cemented his legacy. But
Yeah, exactly. What else does he have to prove at that point? He's beaten
exactly right,
Klitschko, who was the kingpin of the heavyweight division for all those years. He beat Wilder, who was on a tear for all those years. And then he beats Joshua, who's the
right,
big name draw out of the heavyweight division. Outside of him,
exactly
you beat the three guys who, for the past 10 years in the heavyweight division, kind of ran it. So what else do you have to prove? And
exactly
realistically, from a money standpoint, what else brings a draw? I
right.
mean, you don't want to see another Wilder Fury fight.
Mm,
Uh, Joshua would be the only last mountain to climb before Fury could
mhm.
run off into the sunset and just do WWE at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. Well, speaking of that, Joey, I mean, we're talking about wrestling here before we, talk about all of our shows here at Out of the Box Sports Podcast. I believe something's going on this Saturday, isn't it, Joey?
Yeah, so we're definitely, like we said, you touch base on all the new podcasts coming, everything coming to our show. Um, I'm a huge diehard wrestling fan. You can even call me wrestling nerd because I'm just love everything about wrestling, WWE, AEW, indie, everything. Um, so I'm going to be doing a wrestling show every Saturday. We haven't nailed down the exact time. It's going to be either 8 or 8:30 in the morning. We're going to be covering all things wrestling. Paul
Great.
will be my co-host
Mhm.
for the time being. Paul is not a huge wrestling fan, but Paul's going to kind of give me some topics to cover, and I'll just discuss them and be bouncing off of Paul, kind of going with the flow. Paul will,
Mhm.
and that'll be we're going to be naming that outside the ring podcast, kind of like outside the box
Great name.
sports, but outside the ring
Mhm.
podcast. And we'll be covering this Saturday. We're going to be covering the AEW pay per view Double or Nothing, which
Okay.
takes place Sunday live from Vegas.
Mhm.
So what we'll be doing is just going over the whole match card, giving my predictions, seeing
And
where I think they think.
before you interrupt you, I'm so sorry. I think we have a guest, that's gonna be giving predictions too, am I right? I know this little guy. I've known him, met him quite a few times, and he comes from a great blood, of knowledge of wrestlers. Little guy. He's incredible. I mean, this guy goes to more shows than I could ever think about myself going to. I've seen him on, and I believe he's even met the New Day, if I'm pretty sure that he was on their Instagram, if I'm not
He was on their
mistaken.
Instagram. Yeah, Xavier
Yeah,
put him on Instagram. So yeah, my
yeah,
son.
who is this guy, Joey? Who is he?
Yeah, my son little Joey,
Mhm.
I'm gonna be recording his predictions and we're gonna be replaying his predictions live on the show on Saturday morning. We'll be doing that going forward for all the bigger pay-per-views, WWE, AEW, who making his predictions for the events. And yeah, he's a huge fan. I mean, he's met the Hughes Who, Hardy Boys,
Mm,
Sting,
mm,
New Day, Arn Anderson. He's met them all, so he's a huge wrestling fan. He loves it.
that's
Not gonna
awesome.
lie, definitely got him involved with it, so I have a reason to go to these events. But then he just naturally liked it, so now we go together, so that's great. But yeah, it'll definitely be a great show.
Well, I'm hoping, Joey, in maybe 2 or 3 years here, I can get myself off here, and yeah, you and little Joey have a father and son so that's what I'm hoping for, man, because
Yeah, that'd be pretty
hearing
cool.
from you and him, that knowledge, man, makes me just wanna, like, continue to watch AEW and all these events, man. Like, listen to you guys. That's why we had the best on Out of the Box Sports Networks. The name speaks itself for itself. We're out of the box. We're not like the other guys, no disrespect, but here, we don't care what fan you are. We don't care where you're located. Here, we're passionate about sports, and it's all we wanna do is listen to other people about sports, you know? But speaking of that, Joey, I mean, talking about all our network here, of course, you're watching the Fight Club 215 every Tuesday at 10 o'clock with myself, Joey Woods, and Paul Spencer here. Tomorrow night, you can check out my show with Matt Klein, them 215 boys. And yes, the Dallas Cowboys are even on our network here. And Thursdays, being a Cowboys fan, it's hard for me to say, but Thursday night at 8 o'clock, we have a great friend of mine, Big Mike Loro, and he's going to present the 4 for 4 Locker Room podcast. And guess what, boys? I'm a Cowboy fan. Joey's an Eagles fan. He's happy about it. I'm not kind of happy about it, but I love my boy Mike. He's a great dude. He's gonna be having his own show, 4 for 4 Locker Room Podcast, all about the Phillies, the Flyers, the Eagles, the Sixers. It's all about love we have with these people around here, man. And also, next week, man, you seen him check in earlier today. Rob Hefner. Here he is right here chiming in. Awesome. Outside the ring, I'll be listening. I'm glad he's gonna listen, to Joey's show because guess what? We'll be listening to Rob Hefner next week, where he's located in Las Vegas, and he will be having his own show about the Raiders. Just win, baby. Them, the Vegas Knights. He'll bring the knowledge on a West Coast flair. So you better check him out. And I already give you the time. I will. It's going to be Saturdays, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific time. So all the video promos will be checking him out this week. So always stay tuned to Out of the Box Sports Podcast. And Joey, where can we be found at, Joey? Where can we be found, Joey?
So you can find us directly on our pages here at Out of the Box Sports. All of our shows live on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. So every podcast will be broadcasted from there going
Yeah.
forward. Us here at Fight Club 215, we also have our own personal Twitter and Instagram page that you can follow us on, where we'll post some of the bigger breaking newses that we didn't get to cover here today will be posted on the pages. And also, you're touching base about the Las Vegas show. figure we
Mhm.
had to jump in that market because it seems like every other sports league is jumping in that market. Um, feels like baseball's going to be there next. Everyone wants to be in Vegas, so we figured we had to be there too.
Exactly. Like here at Out of Box Sports Podcast, just like Joey said, we're a big family here. We come from a different network, podcast network. We ventured out on our own because we like to talk about other sports. Being a Dallas Cowboy fan, a college fan, we want to open up the venue to where everybody has that platform. But if they want to join us, you know what? Shoot us a message. My name is Paul Spencer. You can find me on Facebook, Joey Wood on Facebook as well, or chime in here. You can send us a message. Hey, we'll put you on our network. We don't ask for anything. We're just passionate people that love to do sports and talk about sports. I don't like wrestling that much. I love it, but I don't follow it as much. And when you listen to Joey this Saturday, I guarantee you're probably going to be checking into some events coming up because this man brings the knowledge, and that's what we want. We're passionate people talking about sports where we want to bring you to our side of the platform to watch the sport and enjoy it as a fan. So, Joey,
Yeah, definitely.
for
And we
as
love
for,
the city of Philadelphia. We love, outside of Eagles for you at least, we love Philly sports teams. But I hear outside the box sports, like you were saying previously, it's just not just about Philly sports. We want to bring you the news from everything, every city, every state, every sports team. Like Paul was saying, we do not care what team you follow. If
exactly,
you think you want to be interested, you have time to dedicate to do a show for us here on this sports network, you're more than welcome to shoot us a message. You can message this sports page also because I did open up our messenger, so you
right,
can message the sports page directly also. But it's just we want content. We want content. We don't care what team you follow. If
exactly,
you all you have to do is make sure that you are able, if when you set a date in stone, you can report for that date. If you can do that, we don't care who you follow.
exactly. I mean, just like if you want to message myself, Paul Spencer, Joey Woods, and Rob Hefner's name is on the screen as well. He's part of our team as well. We're glad to have you, Rob. As a part of our team as well. We are not. It's not Paul Spencer. It's not Joey Woods. It's not Rob Hefner. It's Out of the Box Sports Podcast. That's who we are. We're a team. One for all for one, and we like to make it a dozen people. We love to have you. So, as for myself, Joey, do you want to say anything else before we get out of here, Joey?
Just check out. It hurts me to say, as an Eagles fan, not as a sports fan, check out Paul's show tomorrow. Uh, them boys 215, or them 215 boys. I'm sorry about that.
From
Um,
and I
Big
understand.
Mike, Big Mike on Thursday, and then me on Saturday, and then next week we'll be adding Rob to the mix along with these shows that we just mentioned.
Yes,
Um, hope to get you on here and everyone viewing, sharing. If you like one of our posts, don't hesitate to share. That's how our name gets out there. Our name spreads.
exactly. And on I really didn't want to bring this up, but I did want to mention our prayers at Out of the Box Sports Podcast, and that's where for myself, Joey, Rob. There was a tragic event today in Dallas. I don't want to get into it, but I just want to say all the family out there, the victims, we here at Out of the Box Sports. I'm tearing up actually thinking about it because my kids are older, and Joey, I know you have a little guy going into kindergarten next
Gonna
year,
get
but
there on next year.
I want to say to all those out there, we feel for you. Our prayers, our condolences for the shooting out there. We think about you every time, and everybody out there. Just excuse me, turn up here at Out of This Box Network. We're family, and we look at it that way. All for one, one for all, and we just wish that this BS would not happen in the world. Because back in the day, Joey, I've known you since you were 6 years old playing football for me. And back then, we could let our kids go anywhere outside school, and it didn't damn matter where the hell you went. Now, as a parent, you dread that call, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
You send your child to school.
No
You
kid
you
should go to school and not feel safe. That should be their safe place.
you dread that call, Joey. Like you get a call from the school. Is this, what happened? You don't want that. But here at Out of the Box Sports Podcast, we want to say our prayers and condolences go out to the victims and families of anyone involved out there. So we are thinking about you. So I mean, other than that, I just want to say, our prayers and condolences go out to you, man. It hits home, Joey. My kids are older, but it hits home. Like I look at little Joey as like my buddy, and I pray for
Yeah.
him, But I mean, yeah, it's hard, but
But it's
listen,
not just and not to get political or anything like this, but it's not just at this point in America, it's not just schools at this point. Like 10
right?
days ago it was grocery store shopping, it
Yeah,
2 years ago or 3 years ago it was movie theater. Like it's just
Yeah.
It's not just school at this point. Like we have to, as a country, make a change,
And really speaking of that, dude,
protect us.
this hits home. I've known we live 3 blocks away where I used to live in Philadelphia, and not even 6 months ago, there was a shooting on my own block, Joey, and you were very close to that family, and I don't wanna get into it, but that happened 5 doors down from where I used to live, and that used to be the most
Getting a bottle of water
party was
from their
completely shot,
car
right? Just for shits and giggles, I wanna say, but you know what? It's
just for
not
being outside.
exactly, being a good son to his mother, which is BS, but
His father, yeah, his good son to
yeah,
his father.
I mean, thank God that we have an hour, Joey, where we can come on here and look at the world through put everything beside that and talk sports, man.
Yeah.
That's what we are here, it's an outlet for us, Joey.
Yeah, and before we go, last thing I wanna say is, if you haven't yet, everyone needs to check out, Steve Kerr's press conference today, on this topic. It'll
Yeah,
really drive home to you what you're saying about, yeah, sports is there as an outlet, but at some point we need to stop and take a stand and,
yeah,
say, "What are
agreed.
we doing here?"
Yep, speaking of that, we'll have something on the page where you can check out the sports network on Facebook where we have articles, news updates, and show happenings all around the world. So even if it has done not to do with our sports network, I mean our sports channel, we'll put it on there for you. We have everything NHL updates,
Yeah, I'll try
NBA
to get that video I talked about. I'll try to get it on the page also so people can see it.
sounds good. All right, boys. For as for myself and Paul Spencer and Joey Woods, we are out of here. We will be back next Tuesday night at 10 p.m. and we will be recapping everything that happened plus some more further updates. So for myself, boys, have a great night.